The CBS studio lights blazed down on the most unexpected showdown in television history. Oprah Winfrey, the billionaire media mogul who had interviewed presidents and shaped American culture for decades, sat frozen in her chair. Her perfectly manicured hands gripped the armrests as Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett leaned forward, eyes blazing with determination. "Miss Winfrey, with all due respect, you've been telling America what to think for 30 years. Crockett's voice cut through the studio like a blade. "But today, I'm here to tell you that your time of unchecked influence is over." The audience gasped. Camera operators exchanged shocked glances. This was supposed to be a friendly discussion about voter engagement. Nobody expected the 42-year-old freshman congresswoman to challenge the queen of daytime television. But Crockett had come prepared with receipts that would shake Oprah's empire to its core. Before we dive into this explosive confrontation that has the entire nation talking, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You don't want to miss a second of this political earthquake that's about to unfold. Drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from. This story is going viral across all 50 states and beyond. What happened next would trend on every social media platform for weeks. The woman who had made careers and destroyed them with a single interview was about to face her match in a congresswoman nobody saw coming. This wasn't just a clash of personalities. This was a battle for the soul of American media and politics. To understand how we got to this moment, we need to understand who these two titans are and why this confrontation matters more than any political debate this year. Oprah Winfrey needs no introduction. For over 3 decades, she has been America's therapist, life coach, and moral compass rolled into one. Her net worth exceeds $3 billion. Her endorsement can make a book an instant bestseller or turn an unknown into a household name. When Oprah speaks, millions listen. She's interviewed every president since Reagan, launched careers, and built a media empire that spans television, magazines, and digital platforms. Her famous Oprah's Favorite Things episodes could make or break companies overnight. But beneath the warm smile and generous giveaways, Oprah has always been a political force. Her 2008 endorsement of Barack Obama was credited with delivering him over 1 million votes. When she speaks on social issues, stock markets shift. When she recommends a product, it sells out nationwide. She's been called the most influential woman in America. And nobody has successfully challenged that title until today. Enter Jasmine Crockett, the daughter of a school teacher and a postal worker from St. Louis. At 42, she's young by congressional standards, but she didn't come to Washington to play nice. A civil rights attorney who cut her teeth defending protesters in Ferguson, Crockett won her Texas congressional seat by speaking truth to power. She doesn't have Oprah's billions or media empire, but she has something else. An unwavering commitment to calling out hypocrisy wherever she sees it. Crockett grew up watching Oprah like millions of other Americans. She admired her, learned from her, even wrote a college essay about her. But finding Oprah, even like so many other Americans, wasn't so easy for her. As Crockett rose through Texas politics, she began noticing patterns. The way Oprah's political endorsements always seemed to benefit her business interests. The way her charitable foundations operated. The questions nobody dared to ask because, well, she was Oprah. The stakes of this confrontation went far beyond personal rivalry. This was about media accountability in an age of influence. It was about whether anyone, no matter how beloved, should have unchecked power to shape public opinion. It was about the difference between authentic advocacy and performative activism. The CBS studio had been carefully prepared for what producers thought would be a softball conversation. Oprah was promoting her latest book club selection while Crockett was supposed to discuss voter registration efforts in Texas. The set was warm and inviting with comfortable chairs and soft lighting designed to make guests feel at ease. Coffee mugs with the CBS logo sat on the table between them, steam still rising from the fresh brew. But something was different about Crockett's demeanor from the moment she walked onto the set. She didn't seem nervous or starstruck like most of Oprah's guests. She sat straight back, a folder of documents beside her chair that she hadn't mentioned to producers. Her eyes never left Oprah's face, even during the commercial breaks. Oprah, for her part, seemed to sense something was off. The woman who had interviewed thousands of people had developed an instinct for tension. She adjusted her posture, her famous warm smile slightly tighter than usual. She had faced tough interviews before, but always as the one asking questions, not answering them. The show's host, Gayle King, Oprah's best friend, and CBS This Morning anchor, tried to keep things light with opening pleasantries, but even she could feel the electricity in the air. The audience, a mix of Oprah superfans and political junkies who had come to see Crockett, sat on the edge of their seats. What nobody knew was that Crockett had spent months preparing for this moment. She had hired researchers, filed Freedom of Information requests, and interviewed dozens of former Oprah employees who had signed NDAs, but were willing to talk off the record. She had a story to tell, and she had chosen this moment on live television with millions watching to tell it. The conversation started innocuously enough. Gayle King opened with a softball question about voter engagement, allowing both women to discuss the importance of civic participation. Oprah gave her practice speech about democracy and the power of voting, complete with her trademark emotional delivery that had made her a television icon. But when it was Crockett's turn to speak, she didn't follow the script. "You know, Miss Winfrey, you talk beautifully about democracy and voting." Crockett began, her voice steady and clear. "But I have to ask, when you endorsed candidates in 2018 and 2020, did you disclose that your production company had financial ties to their campaigns?" The studio fell silent. Gayle King's mouth opened slightly in shock. Oprah's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly, a tell that only her closest associates would recognize as danger. "I'm not sure what you're implying, Congresswoman," Oprah responded, her voice maintaining its warmth, but with an edge underneath. "My political endorsements have always come from my personal convictions." Crockett reached for the folder beside her chair. "I'm not implying anything, Miss Winfrey. I'm stating facts." She pulled out a document. According to FEC filings, Harpo Productions received $3.2 million in consulting fees from political action committees associated with candidates you endorsed. That's public record. The audience gasped. Gayle King looked like she wanted to cut to commercial, but this was live television. There was no stopping what was happening. Oprah's composure, legendary in the industry, began to crack slightly. Those were legitimate business arrangements that had nothing to do with my personal endorsements. "Really?" Crockett pressed on. "So, it's just a coincidence that every candidate who hired your company for consulting received your endorsement within weeks." The Congresswoman wasn't done. She pulled out another document. "Let's talk about your charity work since you've built your brand on generosity and giving back. The Oprah Winfrey Foundation, the Oprah Winfrey Operating Foundation, the Angel Network. Beautiful names, inspiring missions. But did you know, audience, that less than 40% of donations actually reach the intended recipients?" "That's absolutely false," Oprah interjected, her voice rising slightly. The woman who never lost her cool was starting to show cracks. "Is it?" Crockett turned to the audience. "Because I have the tax filings right here. Would you like me to read them? Administrative costs, salaries for executives who happen to be your personal friends, real estate holdings that have nothing to do with charity work." The tension in the studio was palpable. Security guards moved closer to the stage, unsure if they might be needed. The audience was divided. Some Oprah loyalists looked angry at Crockett's accusations, while others leaned forward, hungry for more revelations. Oprah tried to regain control. "Congresswoman Crockett, I've been in this business for longer than you've been alive. I've helped thousands of people, created opportunities for minorities in media, and used my platform for good. What have you done besides make accusations?" It was a classic Oprah move. Redirect, personalize, and put the challenger on defense. But Crockett was ready. "What have I done? I've served my community without making myself a billionaire in the process. I fought for civil rights without turning it into a brand. And I've never ever told poor people to just think positive while hoarding more wealth than entire communities will see in a lifetime." The audience erupted. Some applauded, others booed. Gayle King finally found her voice. "Ladies, please let's maintain some decorum here." But Crockett wasn't finished. "You want to talk about your legacy, Amory? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how you platformed Jenny Ounce, who sold snake oil to desperate people. Let's talk about how you promoted Jenny McCarthy's anti-vaccine propaganda that literally costs lives. Let's talk about how you gave Dr. Phil a show and now he exploits vulnerable people for ratings." Oprah's face flushed. "Those people are responsible for their own actions, but you gave them the platform." Crockett shot back. "You gave them credibility. Millions of people trusted them because you told them to." The Congresswoman pulled out her phone. "I want to read something to your audience. This is from a mother in my district. Her autistic son was bullied relentlessly after Jenny McCarthy went on your show claiming vaccines cause autism. Her son attempted suicide at age 14. She writes, Oprah Winfrey might not have pulled the trigger, but she loaded the gun." The studio was dead silent. Even the camera operators seemed to be holding their breath. Oprah's hands were shaking now. The woman who had reduced presidents to tears, who had built an empire on emotional control, was visibly rattled. "You don't understand the pressure of having a platform this large," Oprah said, her voice quieter now. "Every decision affects millions of people. I've done my best." "Your best?" Crockett stood up, the folder still in her hand. "Your best includes promoting The Secret and telling poor people they are poor because they don't think positively enough. Your best includes selling weight loss solutions while investing in Weight Watchers. Your best includes crying on camera about racism while living in a bubble of privilege so removed from ordinary Black Americans that you might as well be on another planet." The audience was in chaos now. Some people were standing, others were filming on their phones. The hashtag Crockett vs. Oprah was already trending on Twitter. Gayle King attempted to intervene. "Congresswoman Crockett, these are very serious accusations. Do you have proof for all of these claims?" Crockett turned to her. "Every single thing I've said is documented. Unlike Miss Winfrey's show, I don't deal in feelings and inspiration. I deal in facts and accountability." She pulled out another document. "Should we discuss the NDAs, the hundreds of former employees who can't speak about their experiences working for you, the settlements paid out to keep people quiet, the culture of fear in your organizations where people are terrified to contradict you?" Oprah stood up as well, her full height imposing despite her age. "You have no idea what you're talking about. You're a freshman congresswoman looking to make a name for yourself by attacking someone who's actually made a difference." "Made a difference?" Crockett laughed. "But there was no humor in it. You've made a difference to your bank account. $3 billion worth of difference. Meanwhile, the communities you claim to represent are still struggling. The schools you've built for photo apps are falling apart. The families you've helped on your show were dropped the moment the cameras stopped rolling." She turned to the audience again. "How many of you have bought something because Oprah recommended it? How many of you have felt like failures because you couldn't manifest success like she told you to? How many of you have watched her cry about her struggles while she flies between her multiple mansions in her private jet?" The audience was responding now, some nodding, others looking uncomfortable. This wasn't what they had expected when they came to see Oprah Winfrey. "You want to know the difference between us, Miss Winfrey?" Crockett continued. "You built an empire on telling people they are special while making them feel inadequate. I'm building a career on telling people the truth, even when it's uncomfortable." Oprah's voice turned icy. "You think you're the first person to come after me. I've survived worse than you." "I'm not trying to survive you," Crockett responded. "I'm trying to expose you. There's a difference." The congresswoman pulled out one final document. "This is the interesting one. Want to tell your audience about your relationship with Harvey Weinstein." The color drained from Oprah's face. The audience gasped collectively. Even Gayle King looked shocked. "That's enough," Oprah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Is it?" Crockett pressed. "Because there are photos of you kissing him on the cheek at multiple events. There are records of you attending his parties. There are actresses who say you knew what he was doing and said nothing." "I didn't know," Oprah said. But her voice lacked conviction. "Really? The woman who knows everything, who has sources everywhere, who built an empire on getting people to reveal their secrets. You didn't know." The studio felt like it might explode from the tension. Security was now actively positioned near both women. Producers were frantically gesturing from off-camera, but nobody was paying attention to them. This was the moment Jasmine Crockett had been building toward. She reached into her folder one last time and pulled out a tablet. "I want to show you all something," she said, turning to the audience. "This is a video from 2013. A young actress, who I won't name to protect her privacy, tried to warn Miss Winfrey about Harvey Weinstein at a charity gala. She held up the tablet, and though the audience couldn't see clearly, the audio was unmistakable. A young woman's voice, trembling, could be heard saying, "Miss Winfrey, I need to tell you something about Harvey." Then Oprah's voice, clear and dismissive. "Dear, this isn't the time or place. Harvey is a friend and a supporter of many important causes." The studio erupted. Oprah lunged forward as if to grab the tablet, but Crockett stepped back. "That's taken out of context," Oprah shouted, her composure completely shattered now. "Is it?" Crockett asked. "Because I have 3 more videos just like it. Different women, different events, same response from you." Gayle King stood up, torn between her loyalty to her best friend and her journalistic integrity. "Congresswoman, these are serious allegations. You're suggesting that Oprah knew about Weinstein and protected him." "I'm not suggesting anything," Crockett replied calmly. I am showing you evidence. The same evidence that prosecutors wanted to use but couldn't because of NDAs and settlement agreements. She turned back to Oprah. You've spent decades building yourself up as a champion of women, a survivor of abuse who gives voice to the voiceless. But when women needed you to speak up about one of the most prolific predators in Hollywood, you chose your business relationships over them. Oprah sank back into her chair, her face a mask of shock and anger. You don't understand the complexities. Stop, Crockett interrupted. Just stop with the complexities and the nuances and the complications. You knew. You all knew. And you chose money and power over protecting women. The Congresswoman addressed the audience directly. Now, this is what I'm talking about. This is why we need accountability. Miss Winfrey has operated for decades as if she's above criticism, above questioning, above the standards she applies to everyone else. She interviews politicians and demands transparency while hiding behind NDAs. She promotes speaking your truth while silencing her employees. She preaches female empowerment while protecting male predators. Someone in the audience shouted, "Tell it, Congresswoman." Others were crying. Whether from disappointment in Oprah or sympathy for her, it was hard to tell. Crockett continued, her voice gaining strength. Let's talk about your famous book club. Did you know that publishers pay up to $1 million under the table to get their books selected? That's why we see the same types of stories, the same narratives, the same comfortable lessons that don't really challenge anything. She pulled out a spreadsheet. I had my team analyze every Oprah's book club selection from the last decade. 78% were published by companies that have financial ties to Harpo Productions. 65% were by authors represented by agencies that also represent you. Only 12% were by authors of color who didn't have previous connections to your organization. Oprah tried to interject. The book club has promoted literacy and reading among middle-class women who were already reading. Crockett shot back. Where are the programs for inner-city kids? Where are the initiatives for prison libraries? Where's the actual impact beyond making already comfortable people feel good about themselves? The Congresswoman was on fire now. Years of frustration pouring out. You've commercialized compassion, branded benevolence, and monetized morality. Every good deed comes with a camera crew. Every charity has a corporate sponsor. Every inspiring story ends with a product placement. She pulled out her phone again. I want to read you some messages I've received since announcing I would be on this show. This is from a former Harpo employee. Thank you for speaking up. I was fired for suggesting we pay in turns. Oprah said exposure. Was payment enough while she made millions from our free labor? Another one. I was a guest on her show about weight loss. They edited my story to make it look like I failed because I wasn't trying hard enough. I had a medical condition. They knew about but ignored. And another. My family's business was featured as one of Oprah's favorite things. We weren't prepared for the demand and went bankrupt trying to fulfill orders. When we asked for help, her team said it wasn't their problem. The audience was riveted. Some were recording on their phones. Others were tweeting furiously. The control room was in chaos with producers arguing about whether to cut to commercial. Oprah finally found her voice again. You're cherry-picking negative stories. What about the thousands of people I've helped, the schools I've built, the careers I've launched? Let's talk about those schools, Crockett said immediately. The Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa. Beautiful campus, beautiful photo opportunities. But did you tell your audience about the abuse scandal? The dead baby found on the premises? The fact that many graduates can't find jobs because the curriculum was designed for American colleges, not South African reality. Oprah's face went pale. Those were isolated incidents that were dealt with. Isolated. Crockett pulled out another document. I have reports of 13 separate incidents over 5 years. Each one hushed up, each one handled privately, each one kept from your adoring public. She turned to the audience again. This is the pattern. Create something that looks good on camera, milk it for publicity and profit, then abandon it when problems arise. The Oprah store closed. The Oxygen network sold. The numerous foundations and initiatives quietly discontinued when the cameras moved on. Oh, you're twisting everything, Oprah said, but her voice was weak now. Am I? Or am I just pulling back the curtain? You know, like in that movie you love to quote, The Wizard of Oz. Except you're not a kindly man pretending to be a wizard. You're a billionaire pretending to be a saint. Crockett stood in the center of the stage now, commanding the space. You've had presidents on the stage, celebrities, world leaders, but I bet you've never had someone tell you the truth. So, here it is. You're not a queen. You're not a spiritual leader. You're not America's therapist. You're a brilliantly marketed product who's convinced millions of people that buying what you're selling will make them better people. The silence that followed was deafening. Then slowly applause started from one corner of the audience, then another. Soon about half the audience was clapping while the other half sat in stunned silence. Gayle King looked like she was about to cry. I think we need to take a commercial break. No, Crockett said firmly. We're not taking a break. We're not giving Miss Winfrey time to regroup with her crisis management team. This is live television. This is accountability in real time. She pulled out one final piece of paper. This is a letter from your father, Vernon Winfrey, that he sent to my office. He's tired of pretending to. Should I read what he says about the daughter who barely visits, who uses him for heartwarming stories but won't help with his medical bills? Don't you dare, Oprah said, standing up again, her voice shaking with rage. Why not? You've built a career on exposing other people's family secrets. You've made people cry about their fathers on national television. Why should yours be off limits? The two women stood facing each other, the tension crackling between them like electricity. This wasn't just an interview anymore. It was a reckoning. You think you're brave, Oprah said, her voice low and dangerous. You think you're some kind of hero. You're just another politician trying to make a name for yourself by tearing down someone who's actually accomplished something. What I am, Crockett responded, matching her tone, is someone who's not afraid of you. And that terrifies you, doesn't it? Because your whole empire is built on everyone being too scared or too grateful to challenge you. She looked directly into the camera. America, this is your wake-up call. The people you idolize, the billionaires you think are on your side, they are not. They are on their own side. They'll sell you inspiration and empowerment while keeping you in your place. They'll make you feel special for buying their products while they laugh all the way to the bank. You have no idea what you've just done. Oprah said quietly. Oh, I know exactly what I've done, Crockett replied. I've shown America that the Empress has no clothes, that the great and powerful Oprah is just another billionaire protecting her interests. Congresswoman gathered her documents. You asked what I've accomplished. I've shown people that no one is above accountability. Not even Oprah Winfrey. What happened next would go down in television history. Oprah Winfrey, the woman who had never lost her composure in 40 years of broadcasting, stood up and walked off her own show. She didn't say goodbye, didn't thank the audience, didn't even look at Gayle King. She just left, her heels clicking on the studio floor, the sound echoing in the stunned silence. Gayle King stood frozen, tears streaming down her face, caught between her role as a journalist and her loyalty to her best friend. The audience didn't know whether to leave or stay. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every awkward second. Jasmine Crockett remained on stage, calm and composed. She turned to Gayle King. I'm sorry you were put in this position, Miss King, but journalism is about truth, not friendship. Al found her voice, professional training kicking in. Congresswoman Crockett, what you've just done, these allegations, they are going to have massive repercussions. Good, Crockett replied simply. It's time we stopped treating billionaires like deities. It's time we held media moguls accountable for their influence. It's time. We asked hard questions about how wealth and power really work in America. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. Crockett v. Oprah wasn't just trending, it was breaking the internet. Twitter crashed twice from the volume of posts. Instagram was flooded with memes. TikTok creators were already making reaction videos. The immediate response was as divided as the studio audience had been. Oprah's defenders came out in force. Tyler Perry posted a lengthy Instagram defense of his friend, calling Crockett's accusations a witch hunt against a black woman who dared to succeed. Celebrities who owed their careers to Oprah lined up to support her. But something interesting was happening in the comments sections. Regular people, the ones who had bought the books and watched the shows and tried to manifest their dreams, were sharing their own stories. A flood of disillusionment poured out across social media. I spent thousands on self-help products Oprah promoted. Still depressed, still broke, but now I also feel like a failure. One woman wrote, my mom refused real medical treatment for her cancer because Oprah's show promoted alternative medicine. She died believing she just didn't think positively enough. Another shared, I worked for Harpo for 2 years. Everything Crockett said is true. We were terrified to speak up, posted an anonymous account that was quickly verified by journalists. Major news outlets scrambled to cover the story. CNN's Anderson Cooper led with it, calling it the most shocking confrontation in television history. Fox News ran segments supporting Crockett with Tucker Carlson saying, "Finally, someone had the guts to say what we've all been thinking about these liberal elite billionaires." But the real bombshell came 3 hours after the show. The actress from the 2013 video Crockett had played came forward. It was Rose McGowan, and she confirmed everything. Oprah knew, she said in a hastily arranged press conference. They all knew, and they chose their wealth over our safety. Within 6 hours, 3 more women came forward with similar stories about trying to warn Oprah about Weinstein. Former Harpo employees began breaking their NDAs, calculating that the public pressure would protect them from lawsuits. A former accountant leaked documents showing exactly how the Oprah empire's finances worked. The shell companies, the tax havens. The difference between what was publicly reported for her charities and what actually happened to the money. The Oprah Winfrey Network's stock price plummeted. Weight Watchers, in which Oprah had a significant stake, lost 20% of its value in after-hours trading. Publishers who had paid for book club placements were demanding meetings with their legal teams. But Jasmine Crockett wasn't done. That evening, she appeared on Rachel Maddow's show to elaborate on her accusations. She came with more receipts, more documents, more evidence. She revealed that she had been investigating Oprah's empire for over a year, that this had been a coordinated effort to expose the dark side of billionaire influence in media. This isn't just about Oprah, Crockett explained to Maddow. She's a symptom of a larger disease. We have a handful of billionaires who control what we see, what we read, what we think. They dress it up as inspiration and empowerment, but it's just marketing. They are selling us back our own dreams at a markup. She revealed that her office would be holding congressional hearings on media consolidation and the tax-exempt status of celebrity foundations. If you're using charity as a tax shelter while building a billion-dollar empire, we're going to have questions. The next morning, Oprah's team released a statement. It was clearly written by lawyers, denying all allegations and threatening legal action against Crockett for defamation. But the damage was done. The image was cracked, possibly beyond repair. Major publications began investigating Crockett's claims. The New York Times assigned a team of investigative journalists to dig into Oprah's charities. The Washington Post started examining the financial relationships between Harpo Productions and political campaigns. The Wall Street Journal analyzed the business practices of the Oprah empire. Within a week, the first domino fell. The IRS announced it was reviewing the tax-exempt status of several Oprah-affiliated foundations. The South African government launched an investigation into the Leadership Academy. Former employees filed a class action lawsuit about unpaid wages and hostile work environment. Celebrities began distancing themselves. The ones who owed their careers to Oprah stayed silent, but their silence was deafening. Others, emboldened by Crockett's courage, began sharing their own stories of exploitation and manipulation in the entertainment industry. Dr. Phil's show lost 3 major sponsors. Dr. Ounce faced renewed scrutiny for his medical claims. The entire Oprah extended universe was under threat. But the most significant impact was on regular people. The millions who had watched Oprah religiously, who had bought into the dream she was selling, began to question everything. Support groups formed online for people who felt deceived. The term Oprah industrial complex began trending, describing the vast network of influence and control she had built. Crockett, meanwhile, was becoming a phenomenon herself. Her congressional office was flooded with calls of support. She gained 1 million Twitter followers in 3 days. Publishers were offering her book deals. Cable news shows were begging for interviews. But she remained focused on her mission. In a follow-up interview with CBS, notably not with Gayle King, she said, "This isn't about taking down one person. It's about changing a system that allows billionaires to masquerade as moral authorities while exploiting the very people they claim to help." She announced legislation that would require full financial disclosure for any media personality endorsing political candidates. Another bill would regulate how charities could use donated funds. A third would investigate the use of NDAs to silence employees and victims. The backlash against Crockett was swift and vicious. She received death threats from Oprah superfans. Right-wing media, after initially supporting her, turned against her when they realized her critiques extended to all billionaires, not just liberal ones. She was called everything from a clout chaser to a communist. But she didn't back down. In speech after speech, interview after interview, she kept hammering home her message. We need to stop worshipping wealth. We need to stop believing that billionaires have our best interests at heart. We need to demand accountability from everyone, no matter how much we might admire them. 2 weeks after the confrontation, Oprah attempted a comeback. She arranged a primetime special on her own network, a 2-hour event where she would address the allegations. The promotion promised Oprah's truth with carefully selected audience members and pre-screened questions. But Crockett was ready for this, too. An hour before Oprah's special, she released a treasure trove of documents online, emails, financial records, testimony from former employees. She called it the Oprah Paper, and it was devastating. It showed a pattern of behavior spanning decades, exploitation, cover-ups, and the careful cultivation of an image that bore little resemblance to reality. The special was a disaster. Oprah cried on cue, but it felt performed. She offered vague denials, but no concrete rebuttals. She tried to turn herself into the victim, but the audience wasn't buying it. The comments on the live stream were brutal. Even some of her most devoted fans were expressing disappointment. The final nail came when Winfrey, Oprah's father, gave an interview to a local Nashville station. He confirmed that his daughter had indeed abandoned him, using him for stories while refusing to help with his mounting medical bills. "She's not the person you see on TV," he said. Sadly, that person doesn't exist. A month after the confrontation, the landscape had completely changed. Oprah had retreated from public view, canceling all appearances and shutting down her social media. Her various businesses were in crisis mode with layoffs announced at OWN and Harpo Productions. The book club was on hiatus. Weight Watchers was looking for a new spokesperson. Jasmine Crockett, on the other hand, had become a household name. She was featured on the cover of Time magazine with the headline, "The Woman Who Toppled an Empire." She was flooded with speaking requests and constantly in demand for interviews, but she used her platform consistently to redirect attention to the issues, not herself. "This was never about me versus Oprah," she said in a congressional hearing on media accountability. "This is about all of us versus a system that concentrates power and wealth in the hands of a few while selling the rest of us false hope." She introduced comprehensive legislation targeting billionaire-owned media companies, requiring full disclosure of financial relationships and limiting the ability to use charitable foundations as tax shelters. The bills had bipartisan support, with even some Republicans recognizing the populist appeal of taking on billionaire elites. The cultural impact was even more significant. The confrontation had sparked a national conversation about parasocial relationships, the one-way emotional connections people form with celebrities. Mental health professionals reported an increase in people seeking help to process their disillusionment with Oprah and what she represents. Universities began offering courses analyzing the Oprah effect and how media personalities shape public consciousness. High school debate teams argued about celebrity influence versus accountability. The phrase "pulling a Crockett" entered the lexicon, meaning to fearlessly challenge someone powerful. 3 months after the confrontation, investigative journalists had uncovered even more damaging information. The Weinstein connection went deeper than anyone had imagined. Financial records showed that Oprah's companies had received significant investments from Weinstein's production company, creating a clear conflict of interest. Former actresses came forward saying Oprah had actively discouraged them from speaking out. The South African government's investigation into the Leadership Academy revealed horrifying negligence. The curriculum was indeed completely inappropriate for South African students. Millions of dollars meant for the school had been diverted to other projects. Some graduates testified that they had been used as props for American media while receiving substandard education. The IRS investigation was moving slowly but steadily. Preliminary findings suggested that hundreds of millions of dollars had been improperly shielded from taxes through dubious charitable arrangements. Legal experts were predicting significant fines, if not criminal charges. But perhaps the most significant change was in how Americans viewed their media icons. The age of unquestioning celebrity worship seemed to be ending. People were asking harder questions, demanding more transparency, and refusing to accept carefully crafted images at face value. Crockett had accomplished something remarkable. She had taken on one of the most powerful people in media and won not through personal attacks or sensationalism, but through facts, preparation, and courage. She had shown that accountability was possible even for billionaires who seemed untouchable. In a profile for The Atlantic, Crockett reflected on what had happened. "I grew up watching Oprah like millions of others. She was part of my American dream. But at some point, I realized that the dream she was selling was designed to keep us asleep. Someone had to sound the alarm." The interviewer asked if she had any regrets about destroying such an iconic figure. "I didn't destroy Oprah Winfrey," Crockett replied. "I just showed people who she really was." The destruction was self-inflicted, built into the foundation of an empire based on deception. All I did was point out that the emperor had no clothes. 6 months after the confrontation, Oprah attempted another comeback. She hired the best crisis management firm in the country and launched a carefully orchestrated apology tour. She admitted to mistakes and oversights, but stopped short of accepting real responsibility. She announced new charitable initiatives and promised transparency, but it was too late. The magic was gone. The spell was broken. People saw through the performance. Her show's ratings plummeted. Books she endorsed no longer automatically became bestsellers. Her political endorsements were seen as toxic. Meanwhile, Crockett's influence continued to grow. She had become the leading voice for media accountability and wealth inequality. Her legislation was making its way through Congress. She was mentioned as a potential presidential candidate, though she insisted she was focused on her current role. The confrontation had also inspired others to speak truth to power. Journalists became more aggressive in questioning billionaires. Employees were more willing to break NDAs to expose wrongdoing. The culture of silence that had protected the powerful was cracking. A year after that fateful day in the CBS studio, America looked different. The worship of billionaire celebrities had diminished. People were more skeptical of feel-good messaging that ignored systemic problems. There was a growing